Baseball is a promise. It's a promise of renewal. It's a new season. Spring has sprung. Things are coming back to life. And baseball is back. What's going on, everyone? I'm Jay. My channel, Square Pegs, and today we are ranking every baseball game on the Super Nintendo. Starting things off, we have Cal Ripken Jr. Baseball, and ooh boy, I really should have known what I was getting into on this one. When I got to the press start screen and the graphic of Cal Ripken Jr. on the front didn't go all the way to the bottom, and you could actually see the background of the screen behind him. Yeah, not a whole lot of great attention to detail in this game, and a really terrible use of Cal Ripken's license. The only Major League Baseball player in the game is Cal. There's only 3 stadiums. I like the commentary when something interesting happens in the game, but that's about it. There's really long pauses when you switch a batter in and out, so like if you get an out, you're just gonna sit there and wait for a few seconds until it switches over. Every pitch is super duper slow, like it's going through molasses, and the fielding experience for the player is horrific. But the AI players are all Gold Glovers. The graphics aren't terrible, and the pitching animation is really good, but this game is just, man, it's a dog. Cal Ripken Jr. Baseball gets a D. Next up, ESPN Baseball Tonight, and if you have seen my hockey ranking video, you might understand why I had high expectations for this one, because I didn't expect ESPN National Hockey Night to be worth a damn. That game was really fun. And ESPN Baseball Tonight does offer some interesting stuff. You have a practice mode and home run derby, which is pretty cool. But that's where the stuff stops. That's really good. So Digital Chris Berman is the thing of nightmares, and the fielding is even somehow worse than that. The game will not go back to playtime until you throw the ball to the pitcher, so if you just stand there and hold it, you will just stand on the field and it will never go back to being able to play. Now, I did turn a triple play at one point, which is pretty cool, but you can't pause the game. Like, I don't understand how this got released. Like, there's so many things that this game just does wrong that I am flummoxed by this game's release. The camera will zoom to the player that you're throwing to, sometimes with like a 3-second delay before the ball actually arrives. The timing on the hitting is horrific. There's only one stadium, and it's always going to have the Montreal Expos logo on the left field wall, no matter who you play as. It's ridiculous. The pitching is pretty fast, but every animation is the same. Do not play this one. It is so bad. ESPN Baseball Tonight gets an F. An absolute F. All right, next up we have Extra Innings, and Extra Innings actually really surprised me. This has the All-Star Game as a game mode you can play as. You can do a playoff or a pennant race, and there's a create a team, which is always great. And the digitized voice at the start is a really nice touch. Music in the game is excellent, if a bit repetitive. And I really dug this little attention to detail where the Super Famicom is the opponent's head when you're playing in one-player mode, like on the select screen. I think that's great. Now, there are only 3 stadiums, but it actually makes the most of the fact that it doesn't have the Major League Baseball license or the Players Association license by giving you magnificent, ridiculous team names like the Bunkers and the Valiants. And the graphics are really fun. Music playing during the game is really great. The window cut-ins when a player is on base is awesome. And the facial expressions on the fielders are wonderful. It's all or nothing fielding, so one player moves, they're all going to move, no matter what direction you're pressing on the D-pad. So if you press up, everyone is going to move up that you have control off of. There's a lot of stuff really good here. Now, it isn't a full season, it's only 130 games, but honestly, that's close enough. A lot of what Extra Innings does is really solid. I can't give this one an S. I don't think it's a perfect game, but it is really good. It's going to get an A from me. Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball is something that I remember really enjoying when I was younger, but going back to it now, there's a lot of speed bumps with this game. So first off, really great intro. The music on the main menu is really fun. It does offer a season mode, the playoffs, a home run derby, and something called clutch time. The hitting in the game is unfortunately kind of where things really fall apart on this one. It's always the same. There's zero strategy involved. The graphics in the game are huge and impressive, but they have very little life to them. Fielding's awful. The pitching mechanic is pretty neat, I will say that. But there's a long pause when the ball is hit to transitioning for fielding. So if you're pitching and they get a hit, it takes a couple seconds for you to get into fielding mode as opposed to just kind of instantaneously jumping over. That makes it kind of impossible to get anyone out. You have to wait at least 5 seconds for the game to go back to pitching, so you're going to throw the ball into the infield and just stand there. And, I don't know, it just doesn't work. There's enough here when I look at it, I go, okay, it's not a complete failure. There's at least some merit to it, like with the graphics and things like that. But unfortunately, Frank Thomas Big Hurt Baseball does not live up to my expectations as a child, and this one gets a D. Hardball 3 is a super low-key game. I think that it is a pretty... I don't know. Like, it's a really middle-of-the-road game at the end of the day. Like, it does some things really well. It does some things really poorly. It only has batting practice as an extra mode. It doesn't have anything else like that. I dig when you go into game the scouting reports from managers. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff when you first get into the game that I don't really like. The running onto the field takes a while. It takes forever for the players to get on field. There's only one stadium that you're ever going to play in. The game is pretty slow. Pitching versus hitting is pretty clever in a kind of paper, rock, scissors way. And the fielding isn't terrible. It's just kind of bland. Like, it's the cheese pizza of baseball games. Like, it's okay, and no one's going to hate it, but it's not going to be the first choice for people either. Below average overall with all of the missing elements, unfortunately. Like, not having a season mode or anything like that really brings this one down. But it doesn't quite get to a failure point or anything like that. I'm going to give Hardball 3 a C. One of the gold standards for sports games on the Super Nintendo is this guy right here. And this is Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball. And everything this game does, it does well. Like, the only thing I can really ping it on is the fact that it doesn't have the Players Association license. Griffey is the only Major League Baseball player in it. But that is like me just looking for issues with it. So first off, for game modes, you get the regular, just exhibition mode, you get the All-Star Game, the World Series, and you can play a full season. There's such ridiculous attention to detail here. Like, I'm playing in Montreal, and when the game starts, it plays "Oh Canada" instead of the Star-Spangled Banner. How great is that? That's amazing attention to detail. Every Major League Baseball team at the time is in the game. The graphics are fantastic. There's awesome little touches like flexing of the arms, blowing bubble gum, arguing after a strikeout. The music is great, but most importantly, the thing that sets this apart from so many other games is it's just really damn fun. Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball is the gold standard for a reason. It is an S. Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run doesn't quite live up to the lofty expectations that were set out by Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball. Now, it does have the Major League Baseball license, and it does offer All-Star games, World Series, and full season modes, and it's made by Rare, so I was kind of going into this thinking this is going to be pretty cool, and it tries really hard. Since it doesn't have any Major League Baseball players in it besides Ken Griffey, it has made-up names, and a lot of the names are really funny, like Slip Slide and Bimbo Kelly. Those are great. But the problem with the game is it's just not very fun. Fielding is tough, the hitting is okay, and the pitching is the middle of the road. But overall, it just doesn't quite get there. I mean, it's got good graphics, and the animations are spectacular, but the game itself is just really average at best. Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run gets a C. The only baseball game released by EA Sports on the Super Nintendo is this right here, LVP Baseball. And you'd think with this being their only shot, they would put their best foot forward, and instead, they did not. Not even a little bit. Now, you do have the playoffs, you can play a full season, you can play the World Series, but holy crap, this game. Bare bones presentation, 0 stadiums. The fielders will all of a sudden pop up in size, so you get these weird kaiju fielders out in the outfield. And I have no idea what happened, but as I'm playing, I lost complete control of the game. I wasn't able to move around. I wasn't able to do anything. And then it crashed. I've never had a game crash when I'm doing a ranking before, and that just kind of solidified that this game is an F. As one of the absolute greatest pitchers of all time, I really expected Nolan Ryan's Baseball to be a very heavy simulation game. And I did not get that. There's only one extra mode in this game besides Exhibition, and that is the playoffs. The menus in the game are really bland. There's no real teams. The game itself is kind of average, and the graphics are super adorable. But unfortunately, this feels like a Famicom game. This feels like something that's 10 years older than it actually was. And it really is something that I just didn't enjoy, and I don't really feel like I ever need to play again. Nolan Ryan's Baseball gets a D. Relief Pitcher is a very ambitious game that falls completely on its face. So you have the playoffs in a 12-game season. A 12-game season. Let me repeat that. Baseball plays 162 games. This gets a 12-game season. And you have the digitized voice of Joe Buck talking to you as you play. And the gameplay is horrible. The pitching is horrible. The graphics are horrible. I have no idea how to field, catch, or throw. The timing on the hitting is terrible. And it's an awful game. This is one of the worst baseball games I've ever played, and this one, to me, is as bad as MLBPA Baseball. But it doesn't get an F because it crashed. It gets an F because it sucks. Hey, real quick, why don't you click the subscribe button so you can keep up to date with everything I got going on? And now, let's take a look at where we currently stand. Growing up, I was a Boston Red Sox fan. I'm still a Boston Red Sox fan. Roger Clemens was an absolute joy to watch pitch. And Roger Clemens' MVP Baseball takes all of that goodwill that I had as a child, being a fan of Roger Clemens, being a fan of the Rocket, and throws it in the garbage disposal. There are no Major League Baseball teams. There are no Major League Baseball players. You only get a season as an extra mode, and oh god, it's made by LJN. Now, it has a good presentation idea. I actually think this is actually a pretty cool thing. But the execution of that presentation is the worst. The controls flip-flop directions based on what camera is shown. The graphics look okay, but how in the hell can you enjoy them when the game is this bad? The music's repetitive, the pitching stinks, and the fielding is by far the worst I've experienced so far. This game, like Relief Pitcher and MLBPA Baseball, is a complete and total failure. It's an F. Sporting News Power Baseball is actually pretty clever. Now, it doesn't have the Major League Baseball license, it's only got the Players Association, so you're going to get the real players from Major League Baseball in it, and you're going to get some pretty cool modes to go along with that. You have the Pennant Chase, the All-Star Game, Home Run Derby, and a team editor, so no full season, unfortunately. There's only 3 stadiums to choose from. There's no real Major League Baseball teams like I mentioned, just their city names. The graphics in the game are pretty decent. Hitting is a little spotty, but it is better than other games, and the pitching is actually pretty average. The thing I really like the most in this game, though, is actually the fielding. It's kind of a relief to play something that has a competent fielding mechanic. The game, unfortunately, is just kind of middle of the road at the end of the day. It doesn't quite live up to what I would hope it would be, so it doesn't really get above a C for me. Super Baseball 2020 is not something that I expected at all. No Major League Baseball license, no Major League Baseball Players Association license, and that is because you play as robots and cyborgs. The game has massive sprites. Now, this is a game where I look at it and I say, tell me you're a Neo Geo game without telling me you're a Neo Geo game, and just look at the sprites, look at the animations. It's only got one extra mode to it. It's only got a 15-game season, but everything this game does, it does perfectly well. Completely puts the sport of baseball on its side and makes it so much fun to play. It's a great spiritual descendant of Base Wars on the NES. The team names in the game are super fun. American Dreams, the Naples Seagulls, and the Mechanical Brains, Tropical Girls, stuff like that. And pretty much everything in the game, every area of the field, is in play. There's some certain spots towards the back that's going to be a foul ball, and there's only one certain opening at the top where you're actually going to hit a home run. Everything else is glassed in. So even if you hit it into the stands, it's going to bounce off that glass and go back into play. The players are upgradable using the money you make in the game by making a great play. And the field features are amazing. There's a stop zone that'll freeze the ball in place. Jump zones let your players jump up into the air to catch a ball. There's only a small area, like I said, to hit home runs. For something that I have played today for the first time, I am blown away by how much fun this is. Like, if I were to play this more down the road, I might have a different opinion of it, but for right now, right out the gate, Super Baseball 2020 is an S. I've spoken many times on the channel about my love of both Baseball Simulator 1000 and Super Baseball Simulator 1000, so you probably know where this is going to be going when I get to my ranking, but let's go through the game real quick. Now, there's no Major League Baseball license, no Players Association license, so these are all made-up teams, all made-up players, and there's only really one extra mode in this with the season mode. You can play a 5, 15, 30, or 165-game season. There are 18 teams to choose from, with 6 of them being super-powered teams. There are 6 stadiums to choose from. And the game, when you kind of look at it, is really basic. The graphics are pretty simple, but where it excels is with its gameplay. Hitting and pitching are fantastic, the fielding is smart, and this game is just a joy to play. The superpowers make this game something really special. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's perfect. It definitely has its flaws. It's definitely missing out on some things that other games have. But for me, this game is an absolute A. Super Bases Loaded doesn't really do anything very well. Doesn't have the Major League Baseball license, doesn't have the Players Association license. There's no extra modes in the game whatsoever. What it does exceptionally well is when you hit a home run, there's a Laserdisc ad in the outfield. That's all right. But I hate the batting view. I hate the fielding view. You have very little control on the pitches, and everything just isn't fun. Everything feels reversed. It just feels off to me. I don't know. I don't dig this game. Super Bases Loaded for me, I mean, you might love it, and I'm not going to take anything away from that if this is a game you dig, but for me, Super Bases Loaded gets a D. I really feel like Super Bases Loaded 2 made a lot of improvements. Now, we still don't have the Major League Baseball or the Players Association license, but it added some new modes. You can design a team, you can do a season, you can play the All-Star Game, and everything about this to me just feels more impressive than the original. There's teams from the normal cities, but also we're getting a lot of Illinois representation. Urbana, Rockford, Peoria, and Aurora. That's pretty cool. There's only 3 stadiums to choose from, which kind of sucks, but I mean, when you look at it, the game is kind of no frills, but it works. It's presented better than the last game. The only thing, like, I put it at above average, but it doesn't really do anything special. It just kind of pluses the bare minimum, I guess is the best way to put it. And maybe I'm ranking it higher because of how poorly the previous game did. But for me, Super Bases Loaded 2 gets a B. Almost immediately, I was ready to put Super Bases Loaded 3 License to Steal at an F because I was so mad about the view in the game. Like, they brought back the view from the first one, and that really upset me because I hated it so much in the first one, but it actually works pretty well in this one. We don't have the Major League Baseball license, but we do get the Players Association, so we got a field full of real Major League Baseball players. You can do season, playoffs, and the All-Star Game. I think they call it the MVP game in this one. And there's a lot of stuff that this game does really well. I really like the music in the menus. Again, it kind of sucks that there's only 3 stadiums, but I love that one of them is Fenway. And the pitches being on each face button really makes this feel like a more modern baseball game. The music that plays when your batters are walking up to the plate on the organ is great. I don't really like the view, like I said, but it works so much better here. And the game really moves at a rapid pace. I like that. I don't like that if you set up for a bunt, you can't back out of it. I think that kind of sucks. But to me, this is the best of the 3 Super Bases Loaded games. I'm going to give License to Steal not an A. I'm going to give it a B+. It's just a little bit better than Super Bases Loaded 2, but it's not quite to the A level, so B+. Super Batter Up is a really middle-of-the-road game. It doesn't have the Major League Baseball license. It has the Players Association, and it only has a season mode as an extra mode, so it doesn't really offer a whole lot of new stuff here. And you only get 3 stadiums in the game, but it does some stuff pretty well, too. Like, the music in the menus is really good. The MLB cities are great to have them there. You get all the MLB players, so it's kind of like playing a regular Major League Baseball game. And hey, cameo appearance by Pac-Man, since this is made by Namco. I don't like some of the AI in the game because I've hit a few times and players will just run even though they should have stayed on base, so the game turns a lot of double plays that way. I like the home run cinematics. I don't know, I mean, it's a pretty average game, like I said at the start. It's really middle of the road, like it doesn't do anything spectacular, so for me, Super Batter Up is going to get a C. Super RBI Baseball is a continuation of one of my favorite series from the NES, and this game, holy crap, does so much. It's got the Players Association license, and it has so many game modes. Home Run Derby, Game Breakers, Create a Team, Sound Test, Stadium Tour, League, Playoffs, Best of 7. It has everything. Game Breaker is amazing. It's a scenario mode, so like you're tossed into the bottom of the 9th, you're down by 2, and you have to score runs. It's great. The gameplay is simple and straightforward. The crowd cutaways are fantastic, like they did the wave in the middle of the game, which I thought was great. The worst part about the game is the fielding. The fielding is super duper squirrely. Your players just kind of fly all over the place and you're controlling them. I don't really like that. It brings it down a few notches for me. But all things considered, this is a great continuation of a fantastic series from the NES. Super RBI Baseball is going to get an A. There's one thing in particular that Tecmo Super Baseball does superbly. We're going to get to that in just a second. Now, it doesn't have the Major League Baseball license, but you do get the Players Association, so you've got all the regular Major League Baseball players in it. It has a season and an all-star mode, which is pretty great. And the music on the press start screen is spectacular. You've been hearing it throughout this entire video. I've been putting it in where I can, and it's wonderful. That's about all it does really well, though. The controls are reversed, the presentation is poor, the fielding experience is horrific. The graphics are pretty good, and the pitching is average, and the hitting is okay, but man, like, the fielding experience just, like, knocks this down so many rungs. I really wanted to like Tecmo Super Baseball, but I just don't. Tecmo Super Baseball, for me, gets a D. All right, my friends, there you have it. Every single baseball game on the Super Nintendo ranked. Some absolute gems on this list, and then some absolute dogs as well. There's definitely some stuff on here that I didn't expect to enjoy as little as I did. There was definitely some surprises as well. What was the one that stood out to you? What is the game that you remember playing on the Super Nintendo that meant the most to you? For me, it is absolutely Super Baseball Simulator 1000, although you cannot go wrong with Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball. Please hit like, please subscribe down below if you're new around here, and hey, if you really dig the work I do, consider becoming a monthly Patreon sponsor or channel member like the folks you're seeing on screen right now. Channel members and patrons get ad-free early access to videos for a donation of as little as $1 a month, as well as access to behind-the-scenes footage. Until next time, folks, I've been Jay. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me today. Go watch some baseball this week. Get into opening day, have some fun with it, and remember to play more games, stay square, and play ball.